According to data from the Gun Violence Archive, the U.S. has seen 44 mass shootings in the first 6 weeks of this year. And while it may be tough to think about this, it can be very helpful to know what to do if you find yourself in an active shooter situation. Now, we want to bring here to talk to us is the founder of the American Special Investigative Group, Toby Braun. It's the group that has a private intelligence agency. It's made up of former law enforcement officials, U.S. intelligence agents. Now, Toby, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon to talk about this very important topic. Well, first, Toby, let's start with telling us a little bit about what you do.
Hey, Alexa. First of all, thank you for having me on. So yeah, our group primarily, we provide private intelligence investigative and security consulting services. And we also have, in spite of all the recent shootings and all this tragedy that our country has seen, we decided to use our knowledge and to create a training division. And a lot of that involves training schools, training civilians. We also do law enforcement training and really vetted civilians that want to add to their toolbox, their knowledge base, to have something that they can do if they're ever in a situation of an active shooter.
Well, we just talked about moments ago about the Kansas City investigation, the incident there. What is your advice to people going to a large-scale event like that parade?
Absolutely. So first and foremost, situational awareness. We live in a day and age where we're all on our phones, we're all on our Instagram and our Snapchats and all these fancy apps, and it seems like we're so not in tune with our environment. So have situational awareness. And what does that mean? Look around, know your environment. If something doesn't seem right, it probably isn't right, and always maintain that awareness level at all times. Doesn't mean don't have a good time, but know your surroundings. If you're in a situation like that, if you're in an outdoor event and I saw there was a lot of barricades set up, know your exits. What do I do if I have to get out of there? If there is a situation, if there is an emergency, know which way to go, know where law enforcement is, and more importantly than all that, have a plan in place. Know what to do, have a plan, and play that plan out in your head, because if you're in a situation and it does happen and you don't know what to do, you won't be able to react.
Now, you mentioned moments ago about what happens when you're outdoors, but what happens when you're indoors if you're in a situation that there is an active shooter?
Sure. So what I always tell everyone, and that's obviously been echoed by DHS and every other expert in the industry, it's run, it's hide, and then ultimately it's fight. We've seen a lot of situations nowadays where the running part or the hiding part may not be a viable option, and therefore we have to be able to defend ourselves, defend our family, defend our loved ones, defend our children, and take care of those around us. So definitely we need to train. We need to know our surroundings, know the exits, know the difference between cover and concealment. For instance, an engine block of a car or a solid wall, cover, concealment, a door. Most of these guys are using high caliber rifles now. A bullet could go right through. So know those differences. You don't have to be out there and become an expert in this, but train, know your surroundings, and add to your skill sets, because this is happening more and more, and it's unfortunately, I predict we are going to have an increase in these shootings in our country.
Toby, I want to mention one thing. There is a bill that is making its way through the Florida legislature right now that would require students studying to become teachers, right, to go through these mass casualty training. One of the bill's sponsors is actually a former student at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School, where we know that's school in Parkland, where 17 people were killed 6 years ago. Is something like this?
I'm all for training. Whether it's, I think first and foremost we need to train more teachers. Talking about schools, that should be absolutely paramount. We do a lot. My organization, we do a lot of teacher training, and we walk into a lot of schools and teachers that the most they've gotten is a PowerPoint presentation, and I think it's negligent if that's the only sort of training your teachers have gotten. They need to have more training. Talking about the students, again, I'm all for training people, especially there are simple things we can do, like stop the bleed. How do you stop hemorrhaging? If somebody's getting shot, this is pattern recognition. We know what happens. We have victims getting shot. There's a large amount of casualties in a lot of these situations. They have mass hemorrhaging, so know what to do. Know how to apply a tourniquet. Know how to take an article of clothing and used that to clock a gunshot wound from an upper extremity. And again, same with the students. These students are sometimes they're the front line, and a lot of these shooters and these mass attacks we've seen, they have expressed their grievance, and they've a lot of times they've come out and said, hey, I want to commit a shooting. I am upset at everyone, and I'm going to do something about it. And a lot of times these students will then come forward afterwards and say, hey, this guy, he made comments, he has made threats before, but we didn't really know what to do. So having that training for students, again, I'm all for training, and as a country, as a whole, we have to be better prepared to address these issues.
Absolutely, and that is something we hear from law enforcement all the time, to report anything that they believe is suspicious right away. Toby Braun with the American Special Investigative Group, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you for having me on.